Hello and welcome to this week's Power Engineering International newscast. I'm Dermot Williams. In this week's newscast, German Energy Minister denies plan to shut down coal power plants, Ukrainian energy security exposed as Russia suspends coal supply, and gas-fired plant failure threatens UK capacity margin. Also, $1.5 billion Roof of the World power plant finally operational. German Energy and Economic Affairs Minister Sigmar Gabriel has responded to speculation regarding Germany's coal industry to say that there are no plans to specifically target the sector for plant closures. A leaked paper from the ministry last week indicated that the government plans to impose carbon dioxide reductions on energy providers. However, Gabriel, speaking in Berlin on Monday, dismissed claims that coal plants would be forcefully shut down, in a similar fate as has befallen the country's nuclear power fleet. The leaked document said the amount of carbon to be cut would be equally distributed among all power plants, but in practical terms this means around 8 lignite and hard coal burning plants would have to be shut down completely. The German industry lobby, BDI, said that closing power generation parks directly damage the competitiveness of German industry without climate drawing a benefit. The BDI commissioned a study showing that the closed plants' output would simply be compensated with imports from mostly coal-fired power stations in neighbouring countries. The study, carried out by Hamburg's Economic Institute, said that switching off 10 gigawatts of installed power generation capacity would cost 24,000 jobs by 2020 in brown coal mining and power production alone. A further 50,000 jobs would be lost because energy-reliant manufacturers would be hit by rising electricity prices due to the closures. Just 12 days after Ukraine's energy minister admitted his country would have to rely on Russian coal to make it through the winter, that same Russian supply has been cut off without warning. Coal-fired power plants provide around 40% of the country's electricity, and Minister Yuri Prodan had earlier this month noted that the ongoing conflict in the east of the country had disrupted the Ukrainians' usual supply of coal. According to information received by DTEC and state-run Settenegro, coal supplies from Russia have been suspended, an energy ministry spokesman quoted Prodan as saying. The Ukraine, which needs to import around 1 million tonnes of coal per month to meet its electricity needs, had signed a supply deal with South Africa to boost reserves, but earlier this month the supplier discontinued shipments, citing concerns about political instability. In September, South Africa and Russia signed an intergovernmental agreement on strategic partnership and cooperation in the nuclear industry, said to be worth in the region of $10 billion. Peterhead Power Plant's unexpected failure to fire last week has placed Britain's ability to avoid power blackouts under fresh scrutiny. The 780 megawatt Scottish gas-fired power plant failed to function during testing despite receiving a contract from National Grid to provide backup power for the UK this winter. The plant, owned by energy giant SSE, was one of 3 power stations handed a contract last month by National Grid to be paid to guarantee they could fire up if needed. The emergency power plants were selected after a series of power plant closures reduced Britain's power generation capacity to uncomfortably low levels. Despite that blow to the UK's energy security, at least in the short term, Energy Secretary Ed Davey has been giving his reaction to more positive news for the country's long-term energy future. The final go-ahead has been given by the European Commission for a new £16 billion nuclear power station at Hinkley Point in southwest England. The Zhangmu Hydro Power Station in Tibet, which is situated over 3,300 metres above sea level, has commenced operations, with 5 other generating units due for completion no later than next year. The country's largest hydroelectric power plant, with a 510 megawatt capacity, is badly needed in a region beset by electricity shortfall. Liu Xiaoming from the State Grid's Tibet Electric Power Company said the hydropower station will solve Tibet's power shortage, especially in the winter.
What people were thinking was that it wouldn't go through at all, but it's gone through. I think that's backed our decision. Basically, we've got to make sure that in the next decade, as 8 of our 9 nuclear power plants go offline, if 30% of electricity that comes from coal is no longer there, we have the power stations to keep the lights on in the 2020s. Now, with these types of projects, this investment now, we know we can look forward to secure energy. even better, because nuclear is low carbon, alongside renewables like wind and solar, it means that we can tackle climate change. So this is great news for energy policy. It means we're getting affordable, secure, green energy for the future. First of all, we've got to finalise the contract. This is an important step in doing that, but we hope to finalise the contract either later this year or early next year. Then, of course, construction has to start. And with all massive construction projects, this is bigger than the Olympics. It takes a long time, so we're looking not to open this until 2023. That's why in those sorts of prices, the energy prices we're talking about the middle of the next decade, this is a good deal for the consumer, as well as making sure we have the energy our industry and our people need. Taxpayers won't pay anything. We basically ensure that consumers are insulated. If there are cost overruns, the developer has to pick up the tab. If they don't open on time, it's the costs fall to the developer. We've insulated the consumer from the risks, and that's how we've learned from the history, and we've learned from mistakes in other countries, and I think that's why the Commission was so impressed.
That's all from this week's PEI newscast. Do join us next week for more news from the global power industry.